When I inherited the ranch from my grandfather, it came with one thing everyone warned me about. Watch the south boundary. The south boundary bordered one neighbor, Carl had lived there for 20 years. Loud trucks, loud dogs. Louder opinions at the first month after I moved in. He drove over on his ATV and said, "Just so you know, the old fence line isn't accurate. The real property line is about 20 feet north of that." 20 feet on a ranch that size. That's not small. I smiled and said, "I'll look into it." I didn't argue. Didn't accuse him of lying. I just called a surveyor. 2 weeks later, bright orange flags were planted all along the boundary exactly where the original fence had always. Then they're not 20 feet north, they're not 10 feet. North right where it stood. Carl wasn't happy, he claimed. The survey was wrong, so he got his own. I watched from my porch as another crew came out. 3 days later, same result, he still wasn't done one. Morning I woke up to the sound of machinery that Carl had started clearing. Brush on his side, which now conveniently crossed into my flagged property. I didn't walk over, I didn't yell, I took photos on video.time dash stamped, then I called the county office. Turns out, removing vegetation across a documented boundary without consent qualifies as property damage. The county issued him a warning. That should have ended it, that it didn't. A week later, part of my fence was down. There's no storm, no fallen trees, just clean cuts. I installed trail cameras that night. 2 days later, I had footage. Carl, bolt cutters. 6:42 a.m. I handed everything to the sheriff, that small town. No drama. Just paperwork. He was cited. That's when Carl made his final mistake. He tried to claim adverse possession if he could prove he'd been using that strip of land openly for years. He thought he could legally take it. Problem? Adverse possession requires uninterrupted, uncontested use for a long period, and proof he had neither. But since he filed paperwork, it went to court, which meant surveys were reviewed, historical aerial images were pulled, fence records were examined, and that's when something interesting came out. For years, Carl had been grazing livestock slightly over the line. Not much, but enough, and because I had documented his damage. The court didn't just reject his claim, they ruled that he had trespassed and caused measurable loss, fence repair, vegetation. Restoration and survey costs, legal fees, all assigned to him. And since the boundary was now officially reconfirmed in court records, I decided to do something extra. I installed a brand new steel post fence along the entire southern line. Tall's cleans immovable. Carl paid for most of it. We don't talk, we don't wave, but every morning when I drive past that fence, I see perfectly straight steel posts exactly where they belong. Some people start land wars thinking they'll gain a few feet. Carl lost money, reputation, and the argument over 20 feet.